Hi guys. For a long time I've had this idea that there's a strong relationship between language and culture and information technology products. The idea is that technology products and services, things that add value, are essentially translators, that they translate from one semantic to another. I find that a lot of people don't fully grasp this idea, so I decided to make this video to try to explain it. To illustrate this concept, I'd like to use the example of buying a personal computer. Now, when I talk about semantic translation, for the most part I'm talking about software and services, but this hardware example makes a good illustration because it's concrete and tangible and something everyone can relate to. So in this case, the customer, the blue guy, has in mind that he wants to buy a computer. So he heads down to the local computer shop. The owner of the shop happens to be a guy who likes to build computers from parts. It's really all he knows how to do, and he assumes that anyone who's interested in technology should also know how to do it. So, after hearing what our customer wants, he sells him a box of carefully selected parts. It turns out that the customer is not all that tech savvy, so when he gets home and opens the box and he stares at it for a while, he starts to realize that he didn't quite get what he was expecting. But he believes Orange Guy knows a whole lot more than he does about this stuff, so he thinks he should give it a try. Sadly, he doesn't make much progress because he doesn't have a clue about how to put this stuff together. So Blue Guy goes back to the computer shop with his box of parts and asks Orange Guy to show him how to put them together. Orange Guy really isn't in the mood to show a newbie how to build a computer. The shop is full of customers and he's super busy selecting and boxing up parts for them, which, truth be told, is what he's best at. Also, he'll make a lot more money selling parts to the other customers. So he grabs the owner's guides for the various parts and hands them to Blue Guy. He also loans him a book he has that explains the basics, and he gives him links to some really good YouTube videos that show how to do it. Now, even though he doesn't know how to build a computer, Blue Guy is pretty smart, so he goes home and spends the next several hours reading the instructions and watching the videos. After his 6-hour learning curve, Blue Guy is finally able to put the parts together to build his computer. But it's not exactly the computer he had in mind, and he's really worried that he might have hooked up something the wrong way and that his computer might suddenly crash. But hey, Orange Guy is the expert, so if that's how he says to do it, Blue Guy figures that's the way it should be done. Meanwhile, back at the shop, business is booming for Orange Guy. A lot more customers are coming in, but a larger percentage of them are less tech savvy, like Blue Guy. So Orange Guy finds himself handing out a lot more docs and video links. The problem is, from the customer's perspective, this approach isn't very efficient. In addition to spending money to buy the parts, each customer has to spend several hours getting up to speed on how to assemble a computer. And because their skill levels differ, the end results aren't very consistent. As more and more customers buy more and more boxes of parts from the Orange computer shop, the problem compounds. Orange Guy has added staff to handle the volume, and the people he hires all think like he does. To meet the increased customer demand for help, they write more and better docs. But their customers don't feel like things are any better. In fact, things are worse because they have to read even more documents, and it's hard to digest the material because the quality of the docs is uneven and they overlap and sometimes conflict. As well-intentioned as Team Orange is, all their efforts aren't really improving things. There still remains a large semantic gap between Team Orange and their customers. Team Orange and the blue people speak entirely different languages. The customers, the blue people, are really only interested in turning on a computer, browsing the web, checking email, and occasionally creating Word documents or spreadsheets. Team Orange is deep into the technology, and they like to talk about CPU clock rates, error-correcting memory, solid-state disks, and water cooling. It's an unhappy situation because the customers aren't getting what they really want, and they feel like their time is wasted having to learn all this tech stuff, and their computers aren't very reliable. The Orange team is irritated that the customers complain so much despite everything they're doing to try to help them. They keep thinking, why can't these people just read the docs? Are they really that stupid? So along comes Green Guy, who's a bright young tech entrepreneur. He's heard about all the pain customers have in this space, and he smells an opportunity. He talks to a lot of customers and vendors to size up the situation. He learns that the vendors are so set in their ways they don't have a clue about how to bridge this semantic gap. He observes increasing animosity between customers and vendors. He has an idea about how to improve things. You can probably guess what happens next. Green Guy goes into the business of building computers. He buys the parts from Team Orange. He gets up to speed on how to build computers. And he only has to do this once. After he learns how to build computers, he uses that knowledge to build more and more computers. He goes up the steep part of the learning curve, and then with each computer he builds, he incrementally improves his process and makes it more efficient. And most importantly, the customers are super happy and excited about this new way of buying computers. Finally, they don't have to waste all of that time with low-level hardware stuff and can focus on what they really want to do. And because this is so valuable to them, they're willing to spend a lot more money to get the computers they want. Green Guy has bridged the semantic gap on behalf of his customers. This new way of doing things is much more efficient for the customers, and it's more flexible, and it creates greater value. Customers are much happier. And because the green, blue, and orange people can each focus on what they do best, all three groups find that their businesses can be more profitable. Our simple computer building example has only 3 layers, blue, green, and orange. But in the real world, there are always many layers. Because modern information technology is so complex and multifaceted, many different kinds of translations are needed. Each translation layer bridges a particular semantic gap. Each translation enterprise strives to survive and become profitable, and this forces them to optimize their efforts. They select the size and scope of the semantic gap they want to span, thinking about the value customers assign to the gap, the capability of their team, the investment required, and the return on investment. This process, repeated over hundreds and thousands of enterprises, creates a tremendous amount of optimization without any central control. It's a manifestation of Adam Smith's invisible hand. And because technology changes so fast, the semantic gaps and those who bridge them grow and shrink, come and go. They self-adjust in innumerable ways. The constantly changing layers automatically right-size for maximum efficiency. But what do you do inside a large enterprise where market forces aren't immediately felt by most of your internal service providers? I've got 3 suggestions. 1. In defining your internal service layers, mimic the layers you observe in the market. For example, if you're creating an internal travel booking service, look at how established and up-and-coming players like Expedia, Trivago, Airbnb, and others operate. Look at the translations they are performing. Heck, outsource to them if you can, if it's not your core competency. And if for some reason you can't outsource, pattern your customer experience after what works in the market. The fact that your enterprise needs an internal service to meet your special needs doesn't give you the green light to make your internal service a lot more difficult to use. Don't layer a bunch of bureaucratic goop onto the user experience your internal customers have grown to expect in their everyday experience with outside vendors. 2. Introduce market forces where possible. Align your internal transfer rates with prices experienced in the marketplace. Although it seems crazy, you might in some cases actually achieve greater efficiency by having 2 internal groups compete head-to-head. Introduce competition from outside vendors. Give your internal customers choices about where they expend their hard-won budget dollars. 3rd, and most important, you've got to build what I call a product culture internally. Groom your internal teams to think and act like open market service providers. Think about all of the things product companies have to do to succeed. Successful ones spend a lot of time understanding customer problems. They carefully design products that solve problems customers think are valuable. They deliver them to the market in a way that preserves quality and attracts customers. They design user experiences customers take delight in. They constantly solicit feedback so they can listen to customers who can tell them how to do better. And above all, they learn to speak the same language that their customers speak. Remember, it's not your customer's job to learn your language. It's your job to learn your customer's language. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please click the like button below, share with others, and leave comments. Take care.